Welcome back, everyone. My name is John Fedro. I'm surrounded by some of the most ethical, successful, good-looking, well-meaning, serious investors that I have the pleasure of ever working with from around the country. They all happen to be women investors. And that's what we're going to be talking about on today's call. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, I want you to get a lot of information out of this video. Pam, you had asked a question earlier that I do not think I am equipped to answer it fully. So I'd like you to ask it now if now's a good time.
Hi, I am Pam. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. Sure, John, coming into this space, completely having no experience in any type of real estate or home improvements, and really not having any background in knowing how to fix anything except for watching videos. One of the things that I think a lot of women would probably have questions about is how you enter spaces with predominantly men and contractors. Like, how do you get them to take you seriously, especially when you may not be so sure yourself about questions that you're asking, or not wanting to appear super junior. I kind of always try to pretend that I know what I'm talking about. And sometimes now I look back like, wow, I really probably looked stupid to that person because I didn't really know. And now that I know, I'm like, oh, he probably knew that I had no idea. So I'm sure that every one of you guys probably experienced that at one point or another.
I definitely feel like when dealing with contractors, it's so much harder being a woman than being a man. And I remember once I called somebody, one of the contractors, his name was Carlos. And I'm like, Carlos, how much is it? And he's like, well, just because you're a woman, I'll give you double price. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'll tell you the trick. If you ask your friend or somebody to call me just because he's a man, I will give him a lower price. And I was like, what?
What?
And he's like, well, because women are usually helpless, meaning that they don't know how to fix this. They don't have the ability of doing it. And he's like, I always give anybody who calls me and who's a woman, I always double the price. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna ask you anymore.
That's immediately no.
Hi, my name is Natalia. I am located in New York area, New Jersey, and I work in Pennsylvania. And I am with John for the last year and a half. I feel like in the networking space, women have advantage, but when it comes to dealing with contractors and actually doing repairs and doing flips, women are definitely at the disadvantage there. And I feel like when I work with my handyman, especially with somebody I just met, I have to kind of earn my respect, because they look at me, 5'3", small, tiny girl who's trying to flip a huge double wide, and they're like asking me, how long have you been doing it? Do you know how to fix it? They're asking me, and I feel like I have to, before I even talk to them, I have to, know what I'm doing. I do some little bit of research on YouTube. Like I had to, or I ask John always. But I remember I had to paint a ceiling, and it was popcorn ceiling. And my handyman told me, oh, we're gonna do a spray. And in my head, I'm like, how am I gonna do the spray when the whole kitchen is there? It's a lot of covering. So I had to go on YouTube, and I found the way to paint it with like special roller, like foam roller that has a lot of cuts in the middle. And that's why it paints really well. It covers the popcorn ceiling. And I told him about it. And he was surprised, but at the same time, I felt like that was the way of earning his respect, because after that he kind of thought that, oh, this girl knows what she's doing, and and yeah, and that's how it all started.
With the contractor space, just here recently, I've noticed like you really have to go in, like you have to, as soon as you contact a contractor, I would really know exactly like what you're wanting to do, and maybe the general way of how it's done. Because if you can just use their kind of lingo a few times, at least it catches their attention and they realize like, okay, she's done this before. Maybe you haven't, but I would maybe try to come off as you have, because you don't want to get taken advantage of. I've definitely been taken advantage of in the contractor space. And I think that that's maybe just, you do have to kind of stick your leg out, take one for the team when it comes to contracting, but you learn a lot very, very quickly, and you realize what you do and don't want in contractors. And then eventually find a good one anyway, and you just stick with that one. But
hey, I'm Megan. I think I partnered with John roughly 2 years ago. It was somewhat on and off with like little one here, just all that. And I am from Houston, Texas.
yeah, I would say as a woman in the contracting space, I would like listen to people, contractors, call John, ask like, what's the typical way this is done? And then just when you're contacting somebody, go into that conversation like really on the ball, know your lingo, and just come out of the gates like, this is what I want done and this is how I want it done. And they're probably immediately going to be like, this isn't somebody who I can play around with or up the price on, that kind of thing. So
Yeah, and I would totally agree with the contractor space. That is something for me that in 4 years of doing this, I've been through a lot of contractors, and I've been through a lot of contractors who think they can take advantage of me and that I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm Stephanie. I've been with John for 4 years and have been, before that was in more traditional real estate. So yeah, and I'm in Boise, Idaho. And so when I first started, I didn't know what I was talking about. And so I was just winging it. But I feel like having the contractors go in and do, like John recommends, like a small job so that you can kind of vet them. But where I have seen the biggest pushback with contractors is when you go in to check their work. So you're going in to check their work and you say, this is not good enough. Like, you got to redo this. And they will kind of try to, well, no, this is the only way I could do it. And no, that's not, it's not the only way you could do it. And you just have to have some authority and know that you are the person who hired them and you want it done a certain way. And I think that just, I feel like that does come with experience and confidence, but in the beginning, and I think you just have to a little bit fake it till you make it and, pretend like you have the confidence.
I could say, I did not have experience either. I did not know what I was talking about. My name is Tiffany. I started in this space in 2019. I'm in Annandale, Virginia, and I have a home in Maryland right now, have a home in Virginia right now that I'm doing a rent to owns on. And then I'm looking to expand into West Virginia also and have branched into land as well. So I have land that I'm about to pull trailers on. That's in North Carolina. So kind of all over the place right now. So I looked at some of the homes that I looked at. I took pictures of. I just knew that they looked pretty bad. I didn't know if they had structural issues or not. How could you tell if you don't know anything about it? So I would take pictures and I would reach out to John. I would reach out to Facebook groups where other people who were more experienced were. And I would show them pictures that I took. And John, of course, very helpful. And he would even tell me some of the things that he would see that I couldn't see because I was just too new. And then another thing, I made sure to talk to multiple contractors. So I would set up a time where I would meet multiple contractors coming in, and we would walk through the homes and I would get them to tell me what their their thoughts were. And then I would compare it with what the people in the Facebook groups told me. And John, I also had my husband came too. So he was listening in too, and I would take notes, and I would look at the quotes that I would get, and I would compare how come one quote is like $12,000 and then another one is 3,000. So that doesn't make any sense. So that's how I started learning.
Are you using contractors or handymen?
That's a good question. So I talked to both.
Pam, are you using contractors or handymen?
You know, in the beginning, pretty much, we didn't know, honestly, the difference between contractor and handyman when we first started. Now we really use handyman, but
Okay.
when we first started,
I'm gonna say you are getting ripped off using the contractor.
when we first started, we were kind of like, oh, Home Depot, who do you suggest we use? So, you know, that's probably not the best way to go about this. For what's worked for us is getting to know the park managers and asking them, you know, who do you know? I've kind of stolen John's personality, and I'm the cheapest woman in the room. So they know that if I'm asking, I want the cheapest
That's
possible
something that we
price.
have to think about too. I've
It's so
had
funny now
handymen
that
flirting
all
with
of
me
the
all the time.
park
like,
managers are like, oh,
Yeah,
here comes El
difficult.
Cheapo. But
I will say that because I come from a male-dominated industries, the industries that I worked in, I have never lacked the confidence of, I'll just tell you, I don't know. Hello, I am Lamika. I am based out of Dallas, Texas, and I started in real estate back in 2003. And rode that roller coaster and came to mobile homes in 2020, hired John in 2021. And I've done fix and flips, I've done wholesales and wholesaling, and I've done brokering. I'll tell you, I don't know, and I'll tell it head on. And if I find out, or when I find out that you gave me the wrong thing, I just won't work with you anymore. And I hold money back so that I can make sure that you have done it. I have one right now where I just pay the guy, moved a home, and he didn't set the plumbing up right, and I had to have a whole nother, plumber come out and redo it. And so I was clear with him up front. I told him up front what I would do if I found out that it didn't work, and that's how it happened. But I go into it telling you, I don't know. I've been doing real estate since 2003, somewhere around in there. I still don't know what I'm doing. I just, I don't know.
it's okay to say you don't know. Somewhere between I don't know and I'm just faking the funk is a good place to be.
Go in there talking about random objects. I'm like, listen, I want this wall to look like this. What is this thingy here? I want that thingy not to look like that. I'm sorry. I don't know the technical words, but you help me and you tell me. So I kind of play the dumb card, but I also don't know, but I know numbers. So if that number that he quoted me doesn't make sense, I'm okay not knowing what the little doohickey is called. That's for you to know what it is. But I know that I'm not going to pay you $1,500 when I paid last time $500. I'm Vanessa. I invest in Orlando, Florida. I'm in Orlando, Florida. I've actually met Cecilia and Carol, so it's kind of nice to see you guys here. Let's see, I've been doing this for about 2 to 3 years, and I kind of just stay in the wholesaling aspect of it. The rehab part is, I don't know, it's overwhelming to me, but I've been doing this for about 2 or 3 years now. So, I'm okay calling it a thingy or a doohickey. I'm like, what is this? How do you fix this? Fix it. I kind of do one of those, but I hate to. It takes so much energy.
For me, like in the beginning, what I would do is I would always position myself like myself and my partner, right? And I never let them to believe that I was doing this decision alone. And if I didn't understand something, I would say, okay, well, I'm not quite sure what you mean, but my partner has been doing this for many, many years. So why don't you tell me what it is? And I'm going to, bring it back to them and see what he says, and then we can come back. And in the beginning, I would go back to John, like, hey, John, what do you think about this? Da, 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 da. And then he would give me some feedback. And then I would go back to the contractor, says, hey, you know, my partner doesn't think that's going to work out. He doesn't think this is necessary. Whatever feedback John would give me, I would go back to the contractor and basically state that it's not just me. I'm here physically, but I have somebody who is doing this with me that has been doing this for many, many years, and you can't pull one over us. You know, like, I'm going to go back and forth until you learn. Hi, everybody. My name is Xiomara. I am from Florida, Miami, and I've been doing John's program for about 3 years. And then I would pin my contractors against one another, like, not against one another, but like, if somebody would say, well, we can't do this, I'm like, really? Because the other contractor did it for me in another location. So like, that's interesting. Oh, well, you know, da, 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 da. And then the story changes, right? Because you've gained the experience, you've flipped a few homes, you know what cannot be done. And you can speak to that. You can say, well, my other contractor did this, you know, they don't have to know that they weren't the best contractor. You just have to throw out there that, you know, I didn't do it, but my other contractor did it and it worked out great. So why can't you do it? You know? And I had a similar situation this month where I went to a walkthrough, right? So, and I'm looking at the stuff and I'm like, this is not going to cut it. Like, you're charging me contractor prices. You're not charging me handyman prices over here, right? And so I was like, hey, what about this? What about that? What about that? You know, and the guy said, because I went with my husband, she always has something to say. And I was like, you're damn right, Skippy. I'm the one signing your check. So I always have something to say.
Skippy. I love Skippy.
Yeah, so like, and he was like, yeah, you know, whatever. And so I give it right back to them. You know, I'm like, well, that's because, you know, I pay I sign your check. So yeah, I'm going to be here doing the last walkthrough. Because as women, I feel like it's another advantage. You're more meticulous, you know, about the work. You pay more attention to detail. You see the big scope, you know, where I've walked into properties where my husband's like, yeah, it looks good. And I walk in, I'm like, no, it doesn't look good. You know, he needs to come back here and I'm going to send him pictures. And don't be afraid to like stand your ground. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't, I don't pick fights, but I don't back away from them, you know? And if I'm paying you that kind of money, I know I'm going to send you pictures. You're like, you just, but that comes with, you know, like they said, a little bit more confident of, you know, what can be done, you know, that, you know, and I always tell them like, hey, I didn't pay my cousin to paint the walls. I painted a contractor and you're supposed to be good at what you do. And if I sell this house like this is the first thing that's going to come up, the conditions of the walls. So I'm sorry, but this just doesn't work. You know, like you need to go back and fix it and show me pictures when it's done, or I'm not paying you your last paycheck. That's just it, you know? But always in the beginning, go back and say, you're not alone, you know, until you gain your experience and your confidence. And then you won't have to pull anybody else because you'll be able to stand on your own and do your own thing. And they'll be afraid of you when you're coming. That's when they get their stuff together because you're coming.
That's something John had in his module that like I continually forgot that I could lean on, was like, oh, let me call my partner, or like, you know, even just in scenarios where somebody's like, so how much do you think you could pay for it? And you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot. So sometimes I would relay those conversations to John and be like, you could have told them, let me call him. And I'm like, why do I always forget that? But that's a must. You've got to keep that in mind.
If I can offer,
Okay, go ahead.
if I can offer a slightly contrarian view. Hello, everybody. This is Mira from Houston, Texas. I've been with John for 3 years. Started off with single family, then got into mobile homes and have never gone back. I've noticed even sometimes men get taken advantage of from the contractors, which is always a sore topic. So what I've decided personally is whether I have an option. Can I learn the whole thing? Yes, I should. but I try to only take projects which are light, like not like a major overhaul, just maximum lipstick on a pig and be done with it. I like to flip them as is. I know I'm leaving money on the table, but that fits with my lifestyle. I have a pretty intense day job. So I guess there is a way to navigate around it. Maybe initially, take on something simpler, but more power to those who learned the other side of contracting or handyman. And then and I do use a handyman, one or two, based on what is needed. I tend to source the handyman people from people I already know, like somebody who's fixed my AC. I ask them, hey, do you know anybody who can do this work? Or my housemaid's son-in-law is my favorite handyman. So I kind of, this is my indirect way of getting a reference, as in I know the person, so there's a little bit of benefit from that.
We've now gotten a contractor that I swear I wish I could move him here to Atlanta. He's in like the outskirts in a place where we bought our first home. So, way out, way out. I wish I could move him here because now we've built a relationship where I can say, Chris, how do you do this? Show me how you do this. Like I now can tell you how to put the floor down, but in the beginning, I was kind of too bashful and I didn't want him to feel like I was an idiot. So I wasn't asking questions. Now, he sends me all kinds of stuff. He calls me El Cheapo, like you can use this instead of using that. And you just kind of have to get there.
And one thing I've tried before is like maybe getting a contractor to do a quote for me. And then knowing like I'm probably never going to use this person because I know it's going to be out of the price that, John says to even pay. So I'll get the quote to see what needs to be done and what materials and all that good stuff. And then I'll just pass it on to a family friend who does that type of work or, a handyman that does that type of stuff. So it's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you that competitive price. So then it's just like, it's cut by more than 50%. Hey, I'm Cecilia. I live in Martinsburg, West Virginia, investing in Martinsburg, West Virginia. I want to say I've officially been in the investing world since, I want to say March of last year. And then a lot of the homes, I'll, send John and he's like, yeah, I wouldn't do anything on them. So I've been so fortunate where I haven't had to do like a whole lot of, renovations on the homes I've sold. So
I'll comment and share some of my experiences. Hi, I'm Sarah. I started working with John and real estate all together in January, and I'm in Daytona area in Florida. So the first home that I did was a full-on flip. And when I tell you I did not know anything, walking in there with a contractor, that was me. and I really had to put my big girl pants on. But just going through that experience, I became so much more confident in knowing how things could be done. I actually kind of like shadowed the handyman for a little bit, or the contractor, and I had him explain things to me.
We had a situation with our very first home. The handyman, I think, was actually sleeping in the home. And his work was subpar. And because it was our first home, we were too nice about things. The contract went way over. And then it was my mother died, my brother died, and we were just being, too nice about things. And so finally things had just gotten to a point where we couldn't take it anymore. And I had given him like a 48-hour deadline to get everything done, and he still didn't. And so when we went down there to let him go, like we didn't know what his reaction would be. So he didn't really lash out, but he was cursing, and he was upset. He was really upset. His car was there, but it was broken down in our driveway. So we couldn't even say get out because he couldn't get his car started. We ended up having to have the house boarded up because I was afraid that in retaliation, he would come in and vandalize the home. And we also, not being familiar with this, we're afraid to, we should have paid him nothing. We gave him something, but we should have actually paid nothing. Now I would give nothing. But we were thinking, oh, well, he's going to take us to court and I could lose my home. And none of that's actually going to happen. But we were afraid because we were like, oh, we have a contract and, you know, he could, you know, come back and try to sue us. And so, you know, that was a learning for sure, about being stern about the contract and sticking to the terms of the contract and not leading with your heart and leading with your head. We've definitely learned that the hard way, but finally got it done.
Yeah.
I've also had the benefit of investing in my area. So all the handymans that I work with are related to me. I think that's not, I know that is why I've never had to think about these things. And even the person that invited me into their home was actually my cousin. So it was,
I wish I had that.
Right.
you know, so I've had these experiences, but when I play them, I'm like, oh, I knew the person, or, you know, and I work with, you know, so that's why I'm taking note because I'm pretty sure that these things are happening. I haven't had them happen, so I may react a different way. So this is helpful.